Alright, welcome back ladies and gentlemen to Multiplying Rational Expressions Level 2. So we've taken the division out, there's going to just be multiplication problems here, and the idea with these problems, they're just a little more complicated, nothing crazy, but there's a little more to them. Let's take a look. So we're going to start with the following fraction, x squared minus 100. And that is over 9x squared minus 27x minus 630. Then we have the multiplication sign. We've got x minus 8. And then on the bottom right, we have x squared plus 2x minus 80. Okay, so the first step, if you recall, was to factor everything. So that's what we're going to do. Okay, we're going to start with the top left. X squared minus 100 is just difference of two squares. So we're going to get x minus 10, x plus 10. Okay, now when you look at 9x squared minus 27x minus 630, you're thinking, okay, I got to start with the AC method. I got to multiply 9 times 630. But this is where that multiple levels of factoring comes in. So what I mean by that is we're actually going to start by taking out a GCF of 9. So I would recommend going over to the side of your paper somewhere and solving this. So somewhere way over here in the corner, I'm going to take 9x squared minus 27x minus 630 and try and factor this. So we're going to start with a GCF of 9. That's going to leave me with x squared minus 3x minus 70. Okay, forgetting about the 9, now I'm going to try and factor x squared minus 3x minus 70. This is just the AM method, and this factors much easier. I'm going to get x minus 10, and I'm going to get x plus 7. Okay, and that works out pretty nice because now I can put that under my fraction. You want to do this on the side of your paper. You don't want to do this in the middle of it because then you have a fraction and a fraction, which isn't really a fraction. You just want to do this work as like scratch work on the side of your paper. On the top right, you're going to get x minus 8. Excellent. On the bottom right, we need to factor x squared plus 2x minus 80. This is just going to be a regular AM method. So we're looking for two numbers that multiply to negative 80, add to 2x. And again, if you're still struggling with the AM method, it's not coming to you, go watch those AM method videos again. There's plenty of them. So we're going to look at x squared plus 2x minus 80. So what we end up with here is x plus 10, x minus 8. That's our factoring. Okay, so now remember, when we cross out, can't cross out next to, but we can cross out top to bottom or diagonally. All right, so to do that, we're going to get x minus 10, x minus 10, x plus 10, x plus 10. Now, even though the x minus 8 isn't in parentheses, I could surely put it in parentheses and then cross out my x minus 8 and my x minus 8. Now, you'll notice there's nothing left on top, but there has to be something on top. So we're going to put a 1 there. Okay, there's not a 0 or anything, there's a 1. So we're going to have 1 over 9, x plus 7, and that is our answer. So remember, we got to do our fraction 1 and then 9x plus 7. There we go. Okay, let's look at a new one. Okay, let's give this one a shot. Okay, so 3x to the 5th minus 75x to the 3rd. X to the 4th plus 5x to the 3rd. Got multiplication. X squared plus 10x plus 21. Oops. And x squared minus 2x minus 15. Okay, so remember, step number 1 is to factor everything. So all we can do here is take a GCF out. Now, I'm going to jump the gun a little bit and do this one on the side of the paper because, I have some experience to see that there's going to be something else that happens here. So when I take out my GCF isn't just an x to the third, it's a 3x to the third, okay? 3 divides into 75. I really have to find the greatest common factor. That leaves me with an x squared minus 25. Now, normally we'd be done there, but x squared minus 25 happens to be the difference of two perfect squares, and so I want to take this to the next step where I do 3x to the third, because that was what we took out, but then I have to do x minus 5, x plus 5. So there's like a second level of factoring there. So again, make sure you're factoring completely. Again, I want to specify that today's video is more about multiplying rational expressions of a higher level. It's not about the factoring. We've been factoring for weeks. So if you're still struggling with the factoring, I know this is the third, fourth, fifth time I've said this, but make sure you're going back or you're asking questions about the factoring. And you can go back to any of our videos about that. So we're going to take a GCF out on the bottom of x to the third. Oh, watch out, that's an x to the third on top. That'll leave me with an x plus 5. Okay, we'll move over to the top right. I'm looking for two things that multiply to 21, add to 10. That's going to be x plus 7 and x plus 3. On the bottom, it's AM again. I need two things that multiply to negative 15, add to negative 2. That's going to be x minus 5 and x plus 3. All right, so now I can go see, well, what crosses out? Well, the x minus 5 crosses out diagonally. Okay, the x plus 5 crosses out top to bottom. The x plus 3 crosses out top to bottom. The x to the thirds cross out. And then I'm actually just left with 3x plus 7. So in the last one, we had nothing up top, so we put a 1 in. Well, here, we have nothing on the bottom. You don't have to put that 1 on the bottom if you don't want to. You can, but you're not wrong if you don't, because you're just dividing by 1. So you end up with that 3 and then x plus 7. And there we go. So again, you're just factoring, and that's the whole idea, is to factor everything that we can. So there will be hints. The hints again will show you what you need to do to solve a similar problem. I like that they even go through here in the hints and they color code what they crossed out. So in red we crossed out the x plus 5s, in blue we crossed out the x minus 5s, and in green we crossed out the x plus 3s. They do x to the third as a separate step, so they actually cross that out later, but I would cross that out right off the bat. Okay. All right, so again, just want to remind you that we're racing towards the end of the year. This is our level 2 project, or our level 2 rational expressions. We've got level 3, we've got a rational expressions quiz, and that's going to take us to the end of the year as far as materials. So again, stay with us, we're almost there. All right, hope everyone has a good day, and I'll see you on the next one.